Hello, welcome to the south of France. Mr. Mann here for BikeSocial, and you join me on the Triumph launch. Now, we're all pretty aware of the Rocket 3, which came out in 2019, but this is the Storm edition. Storm, and there's something marketing-y about force of nature. Anyway, this is the 20th anniversary model, and what they've done is they've given it more power and more torque. It's got new tyres, it's got slightly lighter weight wheels. I'm talking about a drop in the ocean here for a 300+ kilo bike. But this is the press launch. We're in the south of France. There's the R model and there's the GT model. You can see that behind me. Let me just move you around. So that's the GT. You can tell because it's got the sort of more upswept bars. It's got the windshield and it's got the backrest and it's got slightly forward-facing pegs. Whereas the R, this one, the pegs are more mid-mounted. And it's making it a slightly different riding position. Straighter bars. Metzler, they're called Cruise Tech, and they've been made not especially for this bike, but they are new, and they replace the outgoing Avon Cobras and for this massive 240 section, 240 mil wide rear tyre. Right, let's get riding it. Hello and welcome on board. As you know, this is the Rocket 3 Storm edition, of which there are two variants, the R and the GT. Just like the Rocket 3, or the latest version of the Rocket 3 that was introduced, well, it was introduced to the world back in 2019, end of 2019 is when we got to ride it, and you got to see it at the likes of EICMA or Motorcycle Live. And it was on shelves in dealerships early in 2020, and of course then the world decided it wanted to shut down. So here we are, 4 years on, and 2024 happens to be the 20th anniversary of the Rocket 3. So this press launch really is designed to give us a taster of what the new Storm edition is like, but also to talk to you about the changes for the Storm edition, and also what and how those changes have been made and why. The Euro 5 Plus is the latest set of emission regulations, and they are tighter, naturally, than Euro 5, and Triumph had to adhere. Some of the changes that were made were not necessarily mechanical, but electronics. So there's a new sensor in the catalyst in order to monitor emissions, I think further down the line in years to come, because I think that's part of what Euro 5 is about. Anyway, that's all boring. More importantly, there's a load more power. And I'm not sure that a 2.5 litre 3-cylinder engine making 165 brake horsepower really needed any more. However, Triumph went, do you know what? We can do better, we can do bigger, we can do better. And they did. And so 15 more horsepower has been added, making this 180 brake horsepower. But firstly, let's have a little chat, shall we, about the sort of the history of the model before we dive a little deeper into the more exciting headlines. So yeah, 2004 was the culmination, was the year in which the Rocket 3 model was unveiled. Of course, Rocket is a name, a moniker that has frequented the Triumph brand back when it was sort of a bit of a hybrid of Triumph and BSA. What was that, late 60s, early 70s? And so it was rekindled, the name. Rocket 3 came out in 2004. In the years before that, in the development years, it was quite an exciting story, really, that how Triumph got to where they got to, you know, with the 2004 model, which was a 2.3 litre 3-cylinder. They'd seen how popular muscle bikes, big cruisers were in the States, and at that time Triumph was really only selling sports bikes, particularly in the States. They wanted a piece of the pie, and so they did an enormous amount of research into how they could be the biggest, the best, what sort of engine configurations, capacities, power, would work, and in what kind of chassis, with what kind of brakes, suspension, etc. It's John Bloor, owner of Triumph. He was really involved in the sort of the technical process, the development process, making the demands of his engineering department, and providing, I guess, the marketeers with a product that could propel the brand to the very top of the charts in terms of displacement and power and just the headlines. And the engineers tried all sorts of different varieties and of capacities, and they had to they ended up making special machines that could create the bore size that they needed for the cylinders. They got to about a 1500cc, and the I think the American part of Triumph went, no, it's not big enough. 1800 was the next one. No, it's not big enough. And they carried on, and they eventually got to 2.3 litres. 2.3 litres, everyone went, oh my goodness. It was the biggest. And there were several variants of that bike. The 2020 model, unveiled in 2019. What a road this is, by the way. Look at this. Just stunning scenery. But yes, so the 2020 bike, which is the sort of current variant, and what you see here is very familiar. Because they brought out the R and the GT, and they made it even bigger, 2.5 litres this time, and it went up to 165 brake horsepower, up from I think 138. And we go into a tunnel. You know what that means? Whee! Yes. I've grown up. Still a 3-cylinder. Oh, what I failed to mention earlier on was when they were going through that 1500, 1800 process, they kind of got across the frame, and the limits across the frame, because they couldn't make it physically wider. So they ended up turning it through 90 degrees, so the engine sits like that. So you've got the 3 cylinders in line, and it sits really, really low in the frame, which makes it really a very well balanced, massive bike. Such an experience to ride one of these, honestly. It's so different to pretty much anything else on the road, in a good way. And for all of its weight, you don't necessarily feel it, because it is a lot lither, if that is a word. It behaves on the road so much better than you might imagine. There's loads of ground clearance, and so it sort of swings around these corners really well, and because of its weight, it feels very, very planted. I hate that word. It gives you a lot of confidence, because it's nicely, it's not going to squirm about. It's got that massive 240 section rear tyre, of course. It's got that IMU, it's got heated grips, it's got options. A quick shifter is an option, by the way. Yeah, so wheels, tyres are now Metzeler's Cruise Tech, I believe they're called. They haven't been developed specifically for this bike, but there aren't many bikes that do have a 240 section rear tyre. In the Diavel, there's a Indian, Harleys. Anyway, it's sort of these cruiser types. But what they don't have, none of those bikes, they don't have the amount of power or torque. This has got hill hold control for a start, but it's got 166. I think it's up only a handful, maybe 3 or 4 foot-pounds, up to 166. It makes that peak at 4,000 RPM. That's 4,000 there. Red line's, what's that, 6.5. And then the power is up, like I said, 165 up to 180. It makes a little bit more at the bottom, but a lot more at the top. This is absolutely brilliant, this bike. Like I said, I'm on the GT. The R model is the more sporty, primarily because of its riding position. Nothing has changed, by the way, between the 2020 model and the 2024 model in terms of its electronics, in terms of what you get in terms of rider modes, traction control settings, heated grips, blah blah blah. You've got still got 4 riding modes, and I say still, I mean I'm kind of preaching to not only those people who have had or have or still are on or have ridden or know anything about the 2020 model, but also to those that have never come across a Rocket 3 before. And it's eye-catching, it really is. I mean, I remember doing the launch of the previous version in Tenerife back in, say, like at the end of 2019, and the amount of people who wanted to look at it, who were asking questions about it, phenomenal. So people are caught by how imposing this bike is. It certainly has presence when you're off the bike and you're looking at it. It certainly has presence when you're on it. You are very much king of the road. And it handles its weight so beautifully. I've ridden the R earlier on today, and despite the GT here having that extra fly screen here, you actually get a bit more wind noise off this, because it's kind of, I don't know, it's directing it at me. I'm 6 foot tall, by the way, if that's relevant to you. Just a reference, 166 foot-pounds of torque. Just compare that to the Ducati Diavel V4, which would be a very close competitor to this bike, and that I think comes up with about 91 pounds, so a significantly less amount of peak torque. So that engine that sits along the frame, and the crankshaft is underneath it. Again, plenty of ground clearance. It's shaped in a V, has a dry sump, shaft drive, 6-speed gearbox. The bike, as standard, does not come with a quick shifter. This bike here does not have a quick shifter. I'm not sure which one I prefer, the GT or the R. I think if I were going for a little Sunday blast around these curvy mountain roads, then I think I prefer the R, just because of its seating position. But I think the GT looks better if you're going to add some panniers to it. Bit of luggage, probably a taller screen. Just want to make a comment really about the rider modes, because I think I got talking about them earlier, then got sidetracked. We've got 4. We've got rain, road, sport, and then rider, which is one where you can influence the engine mapping, traction control, ABS. For such a huge bike, for being a triple, it's got a very unique sound, which isn't particularly aggressive, and that was a point I kind of raised back in 4 years ago. You know, you look at the bike and think, crikey, that's going to sound utterly mean, and people have, you know, they've put aftermarket exhaust on, or they've got straight through pipes, and crikey, yeah, the ground shakes when people do that. But you know, trying for someone limited by regulations and homologation, so they have to behave. Oh, bless him for pulling over. It's a shame in a way that, you know, Triumph had the opportunity to make more upgrades to the bike. I thought they might have redesigned the layout of the switchgear. The joystick on the left hand side of the handlebars here is very, very close to the indicators. So if you wanted to move down with the options that controls all of the TFT display options that you have, then it makes it a bit of a fiddle if you've got big gloves on or if you've got big hands. Wow, what a road, what scenery. My wife, if we were in a car down here right now, she'd be having kittens. I'm a big fan of the Rocket 3, and I think that, well, look, is it worth the upgrade? That's a good question. If you've already got a Rocket 3, would you be prepared to upgrade it to this for that extra bit of power and, don't know, the Storm name on the side of it? It's about how it makes you feel, how if you want the latest, greatest, and you could afford it, of course. Yes, and here we are, right, we're off again. So we're faced with a bit of a dilemma here. We've got a double-edged sword really, because I want to demonstrate the power and the torque. I don't want to talk about it because it's such a phenomenal amount. Well, how many? Yes, all of them, yes, we like the old 2-finger salute, don't we? So there's very little point in me telling you it's got lots of torque without being able to demonstrate it or tell you a bit more about what that means and how that makes you feel as a rider. you know, it's brilliant sitting there and looking at the spec sheet or saying to your mates, yeah, it's got 225 Newton meters of torque, or it's got 166 to it. What I'm trying to say is that for all the power this thing has, and for all of the, as fast as it can go when you turn that thing to the right, I think there is Boone speed camera. Anyway, for as much as you can wrap that back and go super fast, you've got to be able to stop and control the thing. So it's a good job this massive, great 320 discs on the front, Brembo caliper. Same at the rear. Actually, there's a big old caliper at the back on the single disc on the back just to stop it. Rear brake's quite nice. ABS cuts in quite quickly, but it's nice to balance the bike if you are riding enthusiastically. So if you're diving in and out of the corners, it's nice just to control the balance of the bike, how the bike settles with the rear brake. I want to try and demonstrate, if I can get close to Dan here. Oh, there's a red light. Just how the bike squats under acceleration, and how it, and when it's braking, it's like the entire chassis sits up and down from the wheels. You can see the suspension working so well. Actually, you know, it's so comfortable. The suspension is very, very good. I think it's shower front and back, or shower, however you want to pronounce it. Really just give you that sense of rush, of adrenaline. You know, if you go on a roller coaster, or if you're in a particularly fast car, fast bike, and you've got that feeling in your pit of your stomach, it's vibey in all the right ways, you know. You can really feel how that engine is working through the seat, through the pegs, through the handlebars. But it's not obnoxious, it's not nasty, it doesn't give you a horrible feeling. I think because it's quite a complex theme. There's one particular setting where here at the bottom, which I can show you, you can, when you change gear, there's a little tiny animation of two cogs moving against each other, which is a lovely little, you know, minor point. Brakes are nice and strong. They have to be. Like I said, when you're shifting 320 kilos plus rider and any luggage, you can fit next to nothing under the seat. The pillion seat isn't particularly large, though the way in which the pillion pegs fold up, they sort of fold on each other and then tuck away under the pillion seat, is rather charming. Again, another one of those points that is well worth mentioning, because it's, again, there's sort of the quality of the detail, the attention to detail in the quality of the finish is tremendous. Heated grips are hot, 3 settings. Just here, look on the left hand side. Boop, boop, boop. Really hot. So it's got this Monza style filler cap here, so you can just click at the front, open it up, and that's lockable. Like the fuel cap's lockable. But if you just twist it around, take it out, what are you supposed to do with it when you fill it up with fuel? Where do you put it? Something I failed to mention earlier was that price is the same for all of the colour options. You don't, like on some models, pay extra for different colours. And I'll tell you, one of the differences between the GT and the R as well is that on this particular model you've got the grey and black two-tone. I don't know whether you can see that, but the black's on the bottom half and the grey's on the top half, whereas on the R that's inverted. Keyless ignition, so there's no sort of ignition barrel, which is nice. I've got to try and find something to say now, something else to talk about. Primarily because I just wanted to show you this view. And look at this. This is scenery at its finest. Alright, the condition of the road isn't all that, and the traffic's a bit slow, but crikey, you've got this sort of rapids through the middle of this valley. And it's awesome. Alright, so it's not telling you a great deal about the bike, which is, you don't buy a big old bike like this for its economy, but I might as well mention it because you're never going to get more than about probably 160 miles out of a tank, 18 litre tank. What's that make it? About 40 something, around about 42, 44 mpg. Depends on how you ride it, of course. be careful, try them both. If you fancy, if you don't know which one you prefer out of the R or the GT, give them both a whirl, because that seating position makes a big difference. I've probably covered, let me think, I'd say 70 miles now on the GT in one go without stopping, and I've had to shuffle around a bit in the seat just to get my base of my back a little bit more comfortable. I'm not a massively comfortable guy. Like my frame isn't particularly comfortable on a Triumph Bobber, for example. Sort of feet forward position. Just tend to put a bit of weight on your bum. Because in any gear it'll just pick up and go. And what's funny is that I tried to display it earlier on, I mentioned it earlier on, but the way in which the kind of if you were to watch someone else do it from behind, you notice it. But it looks like it's hitching its skirt up and going, "Hoppa!" Brilliant. It's a word I've used a couple of times already, but there's nothing quite like this. I mean, for all of the rivals, and you could pick out, BMW's R18 range. You could talk about the Diavel V4, Harley. What have they got? The Fat Boy, Fat Bob, Indian, Chieftain. What a peculiar junction. But for all of their impressive size and power and performance, comfort maybe, there's nothing that compares to this.
Do you know what that is? That's my happy face. It means that I've had a really, really good day, and I think a lot of my colleagues, journalists who have enjoyed the ride too, have had a good day. There we have it, 150 miles done in one day, and a real mixture of roads too. So not only have we done the dual carriageways and checked out the cruise control and the 6th gear, which is very much like overdrive, frankly. I mean, the thing's got so much torque, it'll pull and pull and pull from really low down in the road range in any gear, it's a phenomenal feat of engineering, it really is. We've also been up in the mountain roads, we've been fast, curvy turns, we've done tighter, sweepers, the whole range. So we've had an opportunity, therefore, to really explore what this bike is about and really test its capabilities. Now, I have a bit of experience with the bike, as we talked about earlier on, with the 2020 model especially. And the upgrades for 2024, as we talked about, more power, more torque, and the slight difference in wheels. So the weight of the wheels is lower, and of course the change in tyres. Now, I think, and without throwing them back to back, I think that will make it a little bit more dynamic. And that's quite important when you're trying to haul 320 odd kilos of bike, plus yourself, around the mountain roads, especially here north of Cannes, or whether it's on the Fenland roads back in Cambridgeshire. Either way, an impressive machine nonetheless, and one that really Triumph must be applauded for creating and carrying on its sort of legacy, not just letting it die away because Euro 5 Plus came along, but actually improving it further. 25 years ago, who'd have thought that, well, literally, who would have thought that, I know, why don't we create a 2.5 litre 3-cylinder behemoth, a real muscle cruiser to take on the American market, which is all well and good, and it did a great job back then, but to continue and to make it bigger and better, as it's an amazing feat, like we said. So it's indulgent, it's grand, it's excessive, but above all, it puts a smile on your face and it makes you go woo in your helmet when you feel that power. It's there is literally nothing like it else on the road. So is it worth upgrading if you have an existing Rocket 3? Maybe not. We've talked about it already on camera. It's visually not that different. I think the keen eye, the trained eye might know the difference. Of course, with Storm written down the side of it, gives it away a little bit. I would urge you to, if you're in the market for a muscle cruiser, for a big bike like this, then make sure this is on your list to test ride, because you've got to be prepared to get your checkbook out as well, because as soon as you've had a taste of it. I prefer the R, if you're going to ask me about which one I prefer. I just like that riding position a bit better. It's more suited to my shape. I like the sort of dynamicism, if that's a word, of it. but I'll leave you to your own choice. Any comments, questions, thoughts, queries, let me know in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer them, or I'll ask my people at Triumph, my contacts at Triumph, to answer them if there's anything too technical in there. So thank you for watching. Don't forget to sign up to be a BikeSocial member if you're not already. There's so many, it's like 150 different discounts and fantastic offers on the BikeSocial membership site. Again, Facebook, that's another thing we should talk about. It's the Bennetts BikeSocial group. Come and be a member. Plenty of conversation there, which is great news. I think that's all the corporate messages I had. Until next time, cheers.